So this is one of Percy's stories from the Second World War. Now because Percy's the one telling it, things will get awfully confusing if you don't know what the dialogue is versus the narration. So he's going to be conspicuously American for the narration. I'll let him take it away. He never gives up. Ever. If I'm being quite honest, I don't think he's capable of it. It's a 1 in 40 incline. Now, I've never been much good at maths, but I know that's steep. Very steep. His wheels keep grinding away all the same. I can see his face. He looks straight ahead, his brow's all scrunched up like it does when he concentrates really hard. He never looks back once, and he doesn't look down at the unforgiving rails below his wheels either. He just keeps trying. Sparks and smoke and the horrible screech driver calls screws on a chalkboard or something like that. Well, they don't faze him. Nothing phases him. I'm in awe. I'm also worried about his tires and his brakes and his sanity. He isn't blue anymore, not really. The grayish soot sticks all over him. He's more blue than he is any other color, I suppose, but if gray is a color, he's gray. But he keeps the number polished. A dot of sky blue and a gigantic pile of moving, screeching, wheel-slipping gray dust. Percy! I jump when I hear that. I must have been lost in thought. He's probably going to say I have my funnel in the clouds. It's a very silly expression, but Thomas uses it a lot. Get your funnel out of the fucking clouds and help me push! Oh my, he's swearing now. He only swears when he's really angry or really smug. It's almost always that second one. I feel driver's hand on the lever. He swings it back and I throw myself backward over the crossover. Then I do that fancy trick where I jam my brakes on hard and start spinning forward again before I've even stopped sliding backward. I hope Thomas has seen. But he hasn't. I suppose I'll just pat myself on the bunker then. That's quite enough for me. I hurl myself toward the back of the endless train. I try my best to stop cleanly before the van, but I bang into the back of it and throw the train forward. Oh, sorry, I yelp. Don't apologize. Do that again. I think we're getting somewhere. The big engines say I'm a crazy little squeaker, but Thomas is the crazy one, really. He's about to prove that. I give the trucks another sharp bump, and the train begins to slowly rumble up the steep hill. Farquhar is at the tippy top. I can feel Thomas surge forward when the corner of the goods shed roof comes into view, just over the hilltop. He's been remotivated. His wheels are shooting sparks out both sides. One of them scorches my cylinder and I wince. I wish mine were inside like Thomas's are. You'd be surprised how much it hurts when you ding one of these. And I ding them a lot. More than I care to admit. One of his crank pins catches fire. Don't ask me how. I'm worse in science than I am in maths even. His fireman screams something about slowing down, but Thomas just laughs and puts on more power. 2 pins on fire now. I can't see his front, but I know he's gritting his teeth into a fierce smile. He loves the challenge. He loves the fight. Fireman, to the left! Percy, brace yourself! Brace myself? For what? I should have braced instead of asking that. His side rod comes totally loose and flies wildly off his wheels and whizzes through the air like one of those long sticks people throw at the Olympics. It skids across my tank, creating a long scratch. It doesn't hurt too much. It grazes me. And good thing, too. I can't afford a leak right now. Neither of us can. Thomas has 1 side rod left. He's still on fire, and he doesn't lose an ounce of speed. We're rumbling over the entry points now. We're in the yard, and the hill is gone. Behind us! Thomas celebrates loudly, the only volume he knows how to celebrate with. Yes, yes, yes! Suck on that, you big stupid hill! You thought you could keep the king out of his castle? Big mistake, pal, big mistake! He suddenly goes quiet, and then, oh shit! We hang a left around the station platform and soar past the buildings. The station master's toupee catches fire from Thomas's many, many sparks. And then my panicked, whooshy, cotton candy mountain of steam hits him in the face, and it takes his toupee with it. Oh, I feel bad for him. I want to apologize, but I'm too busy crashing. Thomas hits the buffers hard enough to go straight through them and into the large brick wall behind them. His screaming and cursing and insincere prayers to God suddenly stop. And so do I. I bury my whole smoke box in the brake van as the guard hurls himself off the deck. If it had been nighttime, I would have been blinded by the tail lamp. At last, Thomas breaks his silence. I hear him spit something out, maybe a couple somethings. They sound like bricks hitting his running board. He pants for a while, and, well, then he chuckles nervously. He knows we got lucky. Oh, this could have been so much worse. Well, would you look at that? I can tell he's grinning. We're still alive. Thomas has no front buffers. They're both still lodged in the brick. Workmen with jackhammers are trying their best. He's missing teeth. A lot of them. He still smiles the same way. He doesn't try to hide it. I'm sure he fancies them battle scars. I don't feel the same. My front hurts. My funnel's bent. There's a chunk of wood in it. Sir Topham Hatt doesn't say anything for a long while. He just sort of looks between the two of us, standing battered side by side in the middle of the yard. He looks more confused than angry. He's still angry, though. So angry that he isn't shouting. He just stares us down. It hurts to look in his eyes.
What were my last words to you, Thomas?
Thomas keeps a straight face, somehow, when he says, Well, as of now, those are, sir. Sir Topham is not happy.
Before that.
And he murmurs,
Smart-ass.
Under his breath, too. I'm not quite sure what you're getting at, sir.
Split the train.
He pauses sternly. I shudder.
Remember to split the train.
Oh, that. Thomas blushes a little. He's been found out. Yes, I did not remember.
Conveniently forgot, did you?
Yep, you hit the nail right on the head, sir. I see his temper spiral out of control in real time. He takes one violent step towards Thomas and slams his foot down on the stump that was once his buffer. Thomas winces as our controller postures sharply, pointing squarely at my best friend's nose.
We are at war! Is that entirely lost on you? Do you know what that means?
Thomas blinks a couple times, as though he's just been slapped across the smoke box. He nearly was. He absorbs what Sir Topham Hatt just said, and then a gust of steam erupts from below his wheels. His cylinder cocks sound like broken flutes with jelly in them. Sir Topham coughs and swats at the cloud, but he does not move his foot from Thomas's buffer beam. He plants it deeper. He's going to have to withstand Thomas's incoming rant. Do I know what it means? Do you? Time was of the essence, Toppy. It still is, right now, and we're wasting time bickering about some broken buffers and a few chipped bricks. I always gasp every time I hear him call our controller Toppy. I know Thomas is brave, but, well, that's another level of brave. I suppose it's because he knew him in the old days. He knew Sir Topham Hatt before he was a controller. Or a sir.
We cannot win this war if our trains are veering out of control every other day. If you'd split the train,
It would have taken all day.
only twice as long.
You know that's not true. There's also marshalling time, and refueling, and a dozen other reasons. We need to send out that stone, tonight. So yeah, I took the train in one go, and now it's here. The quarrymen are filling it up right now.
And who's going to take it back down to the harbor? You?
Of course me.
You with no buffers?
I have buffers. He wavers for a minute, then flicks his eyes toward the station. They're over there. At that moment, the jackhammer breaks with a shrieking crack, and the poor workman is tossed backward into the bushes. His friends race to help him. The buffers haven't budged.
Listen here, tank engine.
Oh no, he's stopped using names. He's really angry now.
You're no good to me, Broken. You think taking trips wastes time? Then why do you keep forcing me to send you to the works? That's 40 miles off, mind you.
They can fix me here.
They absolutely cannot.
Thomas rolls his eyes. Maybe not properly, but they can, within the hour, and then I'll be fit as a fiddle to push the stone to the docks.
Those trucks were empty when you pulled them up. You really have the gall to suggest that you're capable of delivering them when full? With one side rod and busted buffers.
Yes. So much confidence from an engine with no plan. At last, Sir Topham Hatt takes his foot off of Thomas's front end. He winces a little when the pressure's off. He put up a strong front, but it's obvious it hurt quite a bit. Mr. Hatt wears very pointy shoes. Shiny, too. Our controller takes off his hat. He's balder than he was the last time I saw the top of his head. He rubs his bald, shiny dome and gives a tired grunt. He looks so worn down. People don't get scraped up and scratched and covered in soot like engines do, but, well, if they did, he'd be in worse shape than me and Thomas put together. I feel bad. He speaks at last.
I have already cancelled the shipment for tonight. The stone will go out next week instead.
What? Thomas is appalled. I know how he feels, even if I don't agree. We just wasted an afternoon.
There is no way you will be in any state to make the trip tonight. I'm sending you to the works first thing in the morning. Hopefully you'll be well enough to come next week. No, Thomas, you are not.
He's having none of this. He spins around on his heel, the way he always does when a conversation is over.
Get some rest, both of you. Thomas, Croven's Gate, tomorrow, 7 a.m.
But, sir...
Do not talk back to me. I have made the arrangements. They are set in stone.
What stone? Oh, dear. That was a little too petty, even for you, Thomas. Sir Topham Hatt swings back around. He won't let this stand. He marches back to Thomas, he raises his leg up, and he pulls off his shoe, and with one mighty whack, he swings at Thomas's ripped and withered buffer beam. I can't look, so I don't. Ouch! Oh, you mother...
Watch your tongue, or I'll have them weld your lips shut, too. It'd save the whole island a lot of headache. Now go to sleep!
Yes, sir. Mr. Hatt has a temper, but I never flare it up like Thomas does. He never raises his voice to me. If you obey him and show respect, he's quite fair. But Thomas doesn't obey anybody, least of all a man in a top hat.
And one last thing, Percy.
Perhaps I spoke too soon.
Don't follow his example. He is crass and careless and doesn't follow orders. Next time he tells you to do something stupid, tell him no, won't you?
Thomas glares at me. I don't want to agree, but I do. Yes, sir.
Good, Engine. Now rest, both of you, and no more lip.
Thomas, at last, remains silent, but his face is worse than any curse word. When Sir Topham Hatt is far enough away, Thomas sticks his tongue out, blows a big fat raspberry at his back. Thomas, stop it! We're in enough trouble as it is. The whole country is in trouble, Percy. The world, even. You know what they need that stone for? I think for a few seconds. I honestly haven't thought about it. Houses, maybe. Barracks, bomb shelters, and yes, houses, but not just any houses. Blitzed houses. What's a blitz? I think that's what he said. I think there's a letter wrong in there somewhere. It's what Hitler's doing to London, and Southampton, and Bristol, and... He gulps for a second. His righteous attitude wavers a little. I know what he's about to say. And Brighton. He's blowing it all up, Percy. And we have to build it back up again. If we don't build it up again, we lose. Losing is the worst thing somebody can do, in Thomas's mind. He twitches when he says the word. He sort of mumbles it. He can't bring himself to say it clearly. It can't wait till next week, then. Please, Thomas, just go with the program. The schedule's been made. The damage is done already. It can barely wait till tomorrow, Percy. I don't like where this is going. This isn't over. He's still carrying on. We should be asleep right now. The train must be loaded by now. Thomas smirks. Hattie may have cancelled the voyage, but the ship will still be there. And if we show up with the stone after all, how can they refuse us? Oh, no, Thomas. No. Thomas, you can't be serious. Sir Topham Hatt said we're at war. And he's right. We better start acting like it. He throws it into reverse. His crew must be as mad as he is to let him get away with this stuff. Then again, I must be mad too, because I follow him to the quarry. What did I tell you? He snickers triumphantly. Train's full. I think it's time for a midnight ride, Percy. We've only the moon to shine the way now. The whole world is misted over with deep blue light. I can only see the trucks from the little reflections on the stones. They've just been sprayed down with water to keep the dust down. The trucks look chilly. I feel bad for them. A thought occurs to me. Thomas, you have no buffers. Oh, come on, Percy. When's a thing like that stopped me in the past? What, buffers? I ponder and conclude, you're right, actually. I don't think they ever have stopped you. He scowls. That was the wrong answer, apparently. Sometimes I think you're stupid on purpose. But he says it with a smile. To be fair, I am sometimes. It keeps things interesting. So what? You'll push the train with no buffers? Percy, come on. I'm bold, but I'm not a loon. That would tear my front end clean off. Well, then what are you going to do? He demonstrates to me by running down the train. He passes truck after truck. Feels like forever until he reaches the back. There must be at least 100 trucks. Maybe 200 or 300? Again, maths is not my strongest skill. Thomas jerks his body across some tight points and bangs backward into the train. The wagons yelp and whimper. Now they're cold and hurt. I've got 2 sets of buffers, don't I? The shunter walks up to his coupling and shakes his head in disbelief. He couples him up anyway, if only so he can go home already. Poor guy. Well, so what? You're going to wreck your back buffers too? I'm worried. Really worried. Thomas, we need you. I need you. I mean, you're going to be in the works for months at this rate, and I'm going to be all alone in this quarry with the pots, and I still need to run the big station yard, and I feel dizzy. Maybe it's because my funnel's not on straight anymore, but more likely it's because I'm frightened. I'm really, really frightened. I guess Thomas can tell because he comes off the train and he races over to me. Percy! Relax. My puffing slows back down. My vision focuses again. I see Thomas's concerned face right in front of me. He's got soot on his nose. The blue moonlight bounces off of his cheeks. His eyes are bluer than usual. Nothing is going to happen to me. We're going to do it right this time. We were a little too quick on the charge earlier, that's all. We'll be careful on our way down to the harbor. At some point, I must have started crying because I feel water streaming down my cheeks. No wonder Thomas is concerned. I take a staggered, sudden breath in. You promise? Cross my heart. We'll get to Knapford in one piece. He gives me a playful nudge, but then he remembers his buffers are gone and he winces. Yeah, I'm definitely pushing backwards on this one. I think for a moment about what he just said, and then I begin to spiral with anxiety for a whole other reason. Hold on, Thomas. If you're pushing behind, then you can do it, Percy. Don't panic. You can totally do it. You want me to lead the train? No problem for a brave engine like you. You've got everything it takes and more. Thomas, it's downhill all the way to the harbor. Exactly. It'll be a piece of cake compared to earlier. But what if we lose control? What if we can't stop in time? Thomas makes a weird face. He definitely doesn't have a good answer for me. So he makes one up. Look, the good news is, there's not a brick wall on the other side of the line. So no crash. Yes, 2 crash. The line ends in a key, Thomas. If we don't stop in time, I'll nosedive into the ocean. Splash, Percy. He corrects me like some sort of scholar. Not crash. Big difference. I can't swim, Thomas. Well, then, that's all the more incentive for you to stop in time. He begins puffing back to his end of the train, but he slows down for a moment. He has something else to tell me. His face softens, and he speaks more calmly. That makes me feel better. Listen, Percy. What the Fat Controller said about me, he's not entirely wrong. I am kind of reckless, I'll admit it. Sometimes it pays. But sometimes you need a level-headed, reasonable engine in charge of things. Thomas, we don't have one of those. And we don't. You little idiot. Ouch, that hurts. I'm talking about you. You're the reasonable one here. So steward this train to safety, all right? Oh, wow. Now I can't help but beam. I'm still terrified, though. Things go smoothly at first. The trucks are sleepy, and I don't think they're in the mood to make trouble for us. Thomas is powerful. He bears most of the weight from the back of the train. Every now and then we slow down at random, and I worry he's pushed himself past the limit. But then we start moving again, and I breathe a sigh of relief. "So far, so good, Percy," he calls from the back. "We're halfway there." But it's the last third that's the troublesome one. Or the last 2/3? Oh, ruddy fractions. Forget the maths. It's at the last drop after dry-off. That's when things get tough. We clatter past Terrence's field. He's fast asleep in his shed, but I can hear him snoring. He's a loud sleeper. I can't tell if it's the wind rattling his doors or his own dreary snorts. Oh, I hope we don't wake him up. I've already seen lights coming on in Farquhar and Hackenbeck. I'm beginning to think that there are multiple reasons we shouldn't be doing this midnight run. But it's too late to turn back now. "Hey, Percy, we're going a bit slow, aren't we?" "I'm trying to keep it under control, Thomas. My worst fear is this train careening out of control on the last stretch. Well, actually, my worst fear is circus clowns, but that's not relevant right now." Right. You're at the head, Percy. You call the shots." I can hear it in his voice. He's regretting his decision to put me in front. I don't take it personally, though. It's just his boredom speaking. Somehow, despite all his missing parts and the funny-looking gaps in his teeth, I think the runaway earlier was still his favorite part of the day. "We're nearly there, Thomas. I can see Dryer coming into view." "Good. We're right on time, then. We'll be offloading before the sun even—" But his overconfident tone stops dead when we both hear the mighty blast of a ship's horn in the distance. "That's the Lady Harwick." What a funny name for a ship. But there's nothing funny about this situation. "She's leaving! She's leaving now!" "Oh no!" I begin to panic. "We might miss her after all." "Uh-huh." And he surges against the train. I'm thrown forward, and my body slides along faster than my wheels can spin. We've come too far to throw in the towel now. "Thomas, the grade is getting steeper. We're going down." "Down is where the harbor is, Percy. That's where we want to be." The wind is blowing past us. It stings my face. The sound of all our wheels startles the whole valley. The trucks begin to wake up. "You punks have tossed us around like this all day." It's the one right behind me. He sounds super mad. "We've had it. Let's give 'em hell, boys." Thomas's bump was nothing compared to this. Every truck in the train throws their weight against me. I scream because I can't help it. "Percy!" Thomas is scared too. I hear him slam his brakes on hard. And then, right after that, I hear a loud metal clang, like something long and heavy is being left behind on the rails. Probably his other side rod. Fucking cheap black market bolts! He's helpless. He's not being reasonable. I dump all of my sand. I lock my wheels hard as I grind hopelessly along the tracks. It's not doing anything. Next, I hear the worst sound yet. A deep internal snap, but not inside of me or any of the trucks. It was Thomas. I feel a surge forward. Percy?" We really are dead now. All courage has left his voice. He sounds apologetic and frightened, like he's about to admit he messed up. Because he has. I don't even need him to tell me. "No brakes?" A short pause, and then, "Nope, no brakes." We probably left those a mile back too, along with his side rod and the rest of his crank pins. The horror of it all dawns on me. It's up to me, and me alone, to stop this runaway train. As if I've ever been any good at stopping accidents. I think heavy thoughts. I hold onto the rails for dear life, but they keep escaping my grip. I can see the ocean in the distance now. I can see the Lady Harwick. Oh, she looks utterly shocked. I would be too if I saw this speed towards me. I keep on gripping the rails. I try not to think about my wheels too much. Oh, they must be flat as pancakes by now. But to my surprise, I look at my surroundings, and I realize that they're not speeding by quite as quickly. The train is slowing. I'm winning. Well done, Percy. Keep it up. Don't let go. Don't speak to me. I've got to focus. Right, sorry. I feel hot all over. My wheels are on fire. Maybe literally, maybe not. I can feel the gear that's holding my wheels in place flexing. It's under so much stress. It feels as though my brakes will be torn right out of my frames any second. Oh, I hope and pray that they stay put, just for another half mile. Unlike Thomas, My prayers are actually genuine. We rattle fiercely under the bridge that carries the main line. It's official now. We're in Knapford Harbor. I know this yard well. We've got a short stretch of line before the buffers, one long siding to halt the train on. The Lady Harwick watches me with deep sympathy. I'm sure she's a lovely ship. A pity we have to meet like this. The buffers are fast approaching. The wagons behind me are wild and unruly. There's not an ounce of slack in this train. It's buffer to buffer to buffer all the way back, and without his brakes, Thomas is like a great big 50-ton weight wheeling the train on. The trucks have mastered gravity as a weapon, but Thomas is at its mercy. At last, we begin to slow to a rolling pace. Those little posts at the end of the dockside with the ropes on them aren't a blur anymore. They're clear to see, and they're passing slowly. But even so, I'm still moving. I still can't stop. I have less than 100 feet to the end of the dock. My sand is all gone. I don't look down, but my brake pads might be too. I stare down the old wooden buffers before me. They're getting closer and closer, trying their best to intimidate me, but I stand firm. It's a game of chicken, and I'm not backing down. Mostly because I can't. There's no veering out of the way, not for a steam engine. We're at a snail's pace now. We're crawling toward the buffers, but a heavy train like this could still flatten them, even at a crawl. I must stop. All of my attention is focused on sticking to the rails like I'm made of molasses. Slow and sticky. I keep focusing. My wheels keep grinding. The buffers keep approaching. Until they don't. They've stopped. No. We've stopped. We've stopped! Well done, Percy! I knew you had it in you. What did I say? Lady Harwick looks more confused than ever.
So, am I taking the stone cargo after all, or...
Yes! Me and Thomas both shout together. It is far too late to go back to Farquhar. We spend the night at the docks. There's an old shed that fits us both. I find that I don't roll right anymore. I make a noticeable thump, thump, thump sound as I roll into my berth. If you can call it rolling. I have to push Thomas into place too, considering he can't stop himself once he's under the roof. We've tortured enough poor buffers for one day. I'm not pleased with Thomas. He can tell. Look, I know what you're thinking, and I'm sorry. I continue to pout. He deserves it. I almost got us killed back there, I know. I should have just carried on at the same old pace. You had it under control. Yes, I did. But I soften a little bit and think. Though we did hear the ship's horn. The Lady Harwick had long since departed. We watched her go from our shed. I might still be able to see her, as a little dot on the horizon, but it's hard to tell. It might just be a cloud. Or a star. She was ready to leave. It'd be a dreadful waste if we arrived a few minutes too late. Yeah, dreadful. I do agree with that. We did a good thing, Percy. That stone will build a few hundred houses, easy. Because of us, a whole lot of Londoners are going to have somewhere to sleep again. I smile at that. Then I smirk. We're not going to get much sleep ourselves, are we? Nope. Thomas doesn't hesitate to answer honestly. He never does. 2 hours, maybe, if we're lucky. I can already see the sun peeking out from beyond the waves. Probably. Man, what a night. I ponder for a moment and think of something sad. Thomas, how long is it going to be like this? He sighs. A long time, Percy. It's far from over. How do you know that? Well, it's only been a year. That's how I know. Well, a year's a long time. A very long time. Not where wars are concerned. He trails off tiredly. He makes a bitter face, as if he's remembering something nasty. These things go on forever. It's going to be another 3 years at least. My voice disappears. It takes me a while to find it. 3 years? Well, that's how long it took before. The first time. He lets off steam tiredly. His usual triumphant attitude leaves him, just for a second. A little crease forms in his forehead. For a second, I don't recognize him. He looks so exhausted, so worn down, but he snaps himself out of it almost immediately. He looks over at me. I wasn't supposed to notice. I wasn't supposed to see how weary his spirit really is, underneath it all. But I did. It really was hard for you, wasn't it? The Great War? It's uncharted territory. Thomas doesn't talk about his feelings much. He almost never talks about his early years. The war is a sensitive topic. But I want to know. I can tell he thinks about giving a quiet, respectful answer for once, but he thinks better of it. Pfft, are you kidding? It was the adventure of a lifetime. I love a good challenge. I do best under pressure. But, well, how could you know? I mean, you were built during the war, Thomas. If that's the world that you grew up in, then... Look, don't think too deeply about it, Percy. I won that war, and I'm going to win this one. I'm a fighter. Well, yeah, because you had to be. But I don't actually say that part. Thomas doesn't like to think too hard about what makes him tick. If he did, he might remember some things he's forgotten for a reason. I consider how I would have turned out if I'd been born into a war like him. I came along in the 1920s. Everything was settled by then. Everything was peaceful. But peace is all I've ever known. Until now. I hope this ruddy war ends soon. It can't go on for 3 more years, can it? I don't know if I can hold out that long. But I suppose I haven't got a choice. I'll just have to hang on. Sir Topham Hatt never said a word to either of us about the Lady Harwick going out on time. After all his lecturing, he never scolded us for defying him. He must have been grateful to both of us. He couldn't say it, of course. He'd appear soft, like he was going back on his word. So he just quietly sent us both to the works, and we returned to service a few days later. Thomas may have been reckless in the way he handled it, but in the end, he was actually right to do what he did. What we did. Nothing makes sense during war. None of the regular rules really apply. We're living in desperate times. And desperate times, well, I think I've heard that they call for desperate measures.